live. Oh. Hey everyone, Marisa here with Ask Jesus and discoverintuition.com and marisamorris.com. And here's my dad, Joe
Hey
Morris.
folks, Joe Morris. Joe Morris.
Say hi. We are reading one of the books that me and Bill wrote. It's called, what is it called again?
People don't know who Bill is. Bill is was the author of Marissa's. He is Marissa's literary agent, and Marissa and Bill got together and wrote the Skeptic's Guides, and it's a 8 book series.
There's actually 19 books, but a lot of them aren't. We just never got
published.
There was like the Skeptic's Guide to God. We did a Skeptic's Guide to the channel. We did a Skeptic's Guide to like me because I was doubting myself. We did a Skeptic's Guide to healing and medicine, a Skeptic's Guide to, and they were all with like famous healers or famous actors or, like all like kind of real well-known people that we did the books with. I think he just never got around to like getting their permission and all that stuff to publish them. But those were other books that were very, very interesting. But this one is about my obsession, and that's the soul's journey. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I have been since I started in the spiritual stuff, because I met my higher self, or who I believe to be my higher self, like floating above my car when I had a car accident, and I saw myself down below. And I've always just been really fascinated with the higher self, and a lot of books talk about the higher self, and they talk about the higher self as if it's like, like the all-knowing, the everything, and then others just talk about it like it's just a piece of our consciousness, that knows more than us. So I started drawing these little soul charts from the get-go when I was listening to a book called Opening to Channel by Sanaya Roman and Dwayne Packer. She's a channel. That's how I learned to channel. I taught myself through that book. But she would talk about the higher self and the spirit, and I thought they were the same thing. But when she would talk about them as separate, I was like, wait a second. She's talking about those things like they're separate. Like I thought it was just us, and then like our soul, and then God, like, it being a Christian and a sort of Christian, whatever, like trying to figure it out, Christian or spiritual person at the time. It's like, okay, I have my soul, and that's also my spirit, and that's also everything that's divine in me. And then I have God out there, and then there's me. And that's not the case. I mean, the case is that God is inside of us, our spirit's inside of us, our soul, if anything, is outside of us. It's our path. And then it's up to us to decide where we want to live and what we want to do with it. So yeah, when I drew a picture of this soul, like the 5th time that I channeled, and it was a little circle, and it said God, and it had a little stick that came out of it, and there's another little circle, and it said soul, and then another little stick, and it said higher self. But there was like 10 different little sticks that came out of the soul that all said higher selves. And I realized, oh, those are all of our different lifetimes, like all of our different, whether they're parallel or concurrent or whatever, like whether they're one after the other, we have all these different lifetimes. So we have different higher selves for those lifetimes. But what I'm trying to figure out still is, do we have a higher self, like all that rules over everything? So I think we actually talk about that in this book. I've just never read my own books. So,
well, I mean, Jesus always says we are one. So the top higher self is Christ or the Father. Hang on a second. I'm getting a hang on a second. I got hung up. Get off of it. No, sorry. It's getting warm down here, and here's one of our little.
It's getting hot here. It is
fans. There's the fan.
You missed the heat. It's hot here.
It was just coming in. It was so cold when we were there last week.
Yeah, you were freezing. Yeah.
And one day, I mean, the day after, I guess the day before we left, it was really nice. And then the day we left, I think it was pretty nice as well. But yeah, it's a little warm down here. It's that's just the way it is. We're going into spring, and down here, and it's dry. No rain. We won't rain until June. And every year it keeps getting drier and drier and drier down here. When I first bought down here in Mexico in 2011, but even before that, when I first started coming down to Mexico, I remember riding in the buses in Puerto Vallarta, just where I could feel like I had a plastic bag over my head. I could barely breathe, and everybody was drinking and drinking and drinking. Never had that happen again down here. It just keeps getting cooler and cooler and cooler. I think it's because they're blocking the sun.
That's not climate change, is it?
No, it's man-made climate change, because they put so many little particles of like little mirrors that you can't see, but you see these chemtrails and things like that. They're putting something up there, and apparently it's not floating back down to the earth, and it's staying up in our atmosphere. And what it does is it's reflecting the sun and cooling down the earth. And
Interesting.
that's disaster. The earth thrives when it's hot, when it's warm. So
Mm-hmm.
you really always want climate climate warming or whatever you want. If there's going to be a climate change, you want it to get warmer and warmer and warmer, because that means there's more carbon plus more oxygen, and all the plants grow. Everybody functions with lots of carbon dioxide and oxygen. I think the big complaint about those who believe in climate change is they just don't like the carbon dioxide that goes into the air, maybe from coal, which is dirty and hurts our lungs. So as long as you can use natural gas, there's no pollutants in natural gas. But they're still trying to shut down natural gas, because what the real intent is to wipe humanity off the earth, except for a set million elite who will live underground and whatever. I don't know. Who knows what the...
That'd be so reptilian-ish. Like I just pictured, I just saw the guys, they kind of showed me like this like flash of like all these weird looking like reptilian people living under the earth. They said that's what they did before, is there is like a race or a civilization of beings that were inside the earth, and then they begin to enter into the earth and come up from inside the earth to live on the earth. And then once they live on the earth, then they live in like the water, I'm seeing. And then after that, they live above the water, and then it gets to, they can't do it anymore. So they kind of wipe it clean and they start all over. So that's the progression of the plane.
I think we're coming to believe now that, there are a lot of different civilizations from around the universe that are living here on Earth right now, but most of them are living underground or below the depths of the ocean. If you go to Antarctica and go right to the pole of Antarctica and drill a hole down through about a mile or more of ice, you don't hit water, you hit land. The ice cap of the Antarctica is just ice. It's ice. It's ice. It's not water. I mean, it's frozen water, yes, but underneath it is a continent. And they've gone down through tunnels in the ice in Antarctica. An actual plane flew from who was it? Admiral? What was that admiral that went first time down this to Antarctica? I say Duffy. It wasn't Duffy. It was Admiral Byrd. Was it Byrd? Admiral Byrd flew a plane through a hole in Antarctica, and and entered a whole new world, and then flew around and flew right back out.
Do they have video of it?
I've seen it. I've seen whether it's been generated or whatever, but this is way back in the 1930s, or in the little biplanes or whatever. And so there's a whole new world underneath there, and we see a lot of our government has a lot of video that's finally coming out. It's finally coming out. They've kept it under wraps for 60 years or more. But we have plenty of government video of UFOs just going right down into the water, just right down in the water, and that they travel at the same speed in the water as they travel above the water, which means there's no. I mean, what can you do? Swim fast, swim fast, or run fast. You're always going to run fast, because swimming is going to slow you down. Water's heavy. And so anyway, we have all that. There's just so much we do not know. And I was reading while I was getting ready. Sorry, folks, we're an hour late, but that's because of a lot of technical things. And while I was waiting, I was reading on a little bit in our book, The 8 Greatest Authors, and I was reading about Paul and the incoming of Paul. And I don't know what the point of that was, but
something about stuff we don't know. when you were reading the book?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because in the intro to Paul here, I made clear that what we were doing was we were moving into a book called Mysteries of the Earth. And I happened to, at the end of our session, say, I wonder if Paul did automatic writing, the author of the Bible. And that led us into the Bible books. And I was just reading that ahead of time. There's just so much. I mean, we do have the book Mysteries of the Earth, and we've got some very, very interesting stuff. But like I said on my show yesterday, you didn't make it in yesterday. I said that, there are many people in the world.
I heard I just couldn't get in.
Many people in the world are like me that have come to interpret the book of Genesis as an introduction to the Anunnaki. And so I've read a lot about the Anunnaki because Genesis 6 talks about the angels that came into the earth and mated with the beautiful women of men and created the giants. Well, if you read the Anunnaki story, that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. So when you say, well, God made us, there are people that are going to say, no, the Anunnaki made us.
But
my retort was, well, who made the Anunnaki then?
Yeah.
I mean, this was just God. It still goes back to Christ. Christ created everything in this universe. And maybe whenever we talk to Jesus about the Anunnaki, I picture Jesus going, those stupid Anunnaki, they just don't get it together. He's always given us the impression that they're just a bunch of doofuses that were just far more advanced than us, but they're a bunch of doofuses.
I don't think they're more advanced though. But
well,
what I
they had
at
that time, at the time of Adam and Eve, they certainly had the intelligence to create life, to create DNA. Then they got to be smarter than us. But that doesn't mean they're smart. We got a lot of smart asses in the United States that think they're so smart and who are just blathering on about nonsense. But anyway, that's
what Jesus was just saying was that what they did have figured out was time, like time travel or things like that, and that was given to them by whoever they were made by. So they had this time travel thing down, so they could travel through time, and that's why they could go underwater fast and things like that, because they're not really in the place that they're in. Like, just like, for all we know, we could be underwater right now. We think that we're not underwater, but we are, is what he's saying. Like we could think that we're just here, but technically we are underwater. We're underwater? He says, yes. He says, you're underwater. He says, the soul is water. The soul's underwater. So, but we don't breathe water. He says, you breathe water inside the womb before you're born. Do we really breathe water? Yeah, we do. We breathe water. But he's saying that there's plenty of people on this planet that still live under the water, that we're under the water. He says that's Leviathan's reign. That's where Leviathan reigns. Leviathan is the sea monster. That's what Leviathan means. It means sea monster, and I think that's the devil, right?
In a way, I was watching a documentary yesterday. I like watching documentaries, and this one I was watching was about the end times. They're talking about Nostradamus and all this other stuff, and they kept bringing in the Book of Revelation, and according to John in the Book of Revelation, the final army that will bring ultimate destruction to mankind comes from the sea. Now they are trying to figure out, what does that mean? They cross the ocean in a boat from, let's say, China, and they're coming from the sea, or are these coming from the sea?
From the sea.
So that would be people who already exist and
live
on this earth and live under the water and don't pay any attention. What they're saying is
a lot of them live under there and project out to here. Like our souls, he's saying our souls are under the water. So like if we're like, oh, where's my soul? Our soul is under the water and they exist under the water, and we're projecting our consciousness outside the water into this reality. So this reality outside of the water is the movie. like the light, like the projection of the light. This is the movie out here outside the water, but like our reality is under the water as a soul, he says. And then after you go through the water, you go down to the center of the earth where it's not water anymore, he says, and that's where you get shot up into Pleiades and other places, because we're just a projection of another place that we live in. But we do project ourselves into the water here on the earth, because the Father is the water. It's the ocean, it's the sea. Like all the water is God.
Yeah, life comes from water. Life comes from water.
And water can't be destroyed.
What's the chemical symbol for water?
H2O.
H2O.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So water is hydrogen and 2 parts oxygen.
Yeah.
So as long as there's hydrogen and oxygen, there'll always be water. If one of them disappears, oxygen, let's say, we'd only lose oxygen if we lose. We'll all die if there's no carbon dioxide. If there's no carbon dioxide, we can't grow plants. Plants release oxygen that we breathe. So they're basically trying to wipe out all these environmentalists. Save the whales, but build the windmills that kill them. People are so fake. People are just power. It's all power.
They say whales and dolphins are like smarter than people.
Yeah, they have a higher IQ, higher intelligence quotient. Yeah.
I'm wondering if because there's that story in the Bible called, is it Jonah and the whale?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How's that story go? I just saw somebody get eaten by a whale, and I'm seeing kind of like our consciousness some of our consciousness is inside of a whale or whatever, and then I just get shot out.
I don't really know what the meaning of the story of Jonah and the whale is, other than that he got gobbled up by the dark side and had to learn to trust God to get him out, and he got out. So that was it. You trust the dark side, you get eaten. It's like I was reading in the paper yesterday that you're hearing the saying, "Get woke, go broke." Have you heard that?
No, but gosh, that
it's yeah. Go woke, get broke, or get woke, go broke. Get broke.
Oh, that's funny.
Planet Fitness that has fitness places all over the United States, the world. They decided to say, okay, men are allowed into women's dressing rooms if they think that they're a woman, no matter what. And when a viral video went out showing a guy in a woman's bathroom shaving, a man supposedly calling himself a woman in a woman's bathroom shaving naked, and a lady took a picture of it. It went viral for this Planet Fitness or whatever, and in one day they lost $400 million in memberships. People who quit. $400 million. Get woke, go broke. Yeah. Stupid people think, it's okay because they're trans and they can undress in front of women and what a bunch of bozos in this world.
And maybe has been had a bad experience with men. They don't want a man, or when they're naked, and they don't want to see a naked man. Well, Planet Fitness is the one that I think lets nomads sleep there for free outside in their parking lot, and then Cracker Barrel, and they let them shower there too. I think
the whole world's going to hell, and that's why I'm not going to say his name because we'll get shadow banned. Yeah. But a previous president hopefully will be our next president, because the whole world is praying for that right now, because we had such peace. Not only peace, but we had the Abraham Accords, where we had the Muslim nations coming in and joining and setting up embassies in Jerusalem with the Jews, which is unheard of. And now we're right back to all the wars and everything else. And it's just the dark side. We got to get the light back in there.
The 4 years that someone else was president, I said the world was really good. She goes, well, yeah, because the presidents before is what makes it, then. So it's like a delayed reaction. So everything that's horrible right now is because of that president because he was president. That's just the schooling system, that's teaching.
Then why? Well, yeah, they don't really know the truth, because as far as the government, as far as our economy went during the years, the man with the smile.
No, she
It
was
was it was
11.
flatline. It's flatline.
Mhm.
It's flatline. It's like this. Our GDP was like this. Was like this. Very flat. Very flat. And nothing was happening. And then the next president came in, who we're not allowed to say, and all those flat lines went whoop. I mean,
Mm.
straight up, everything, boom, everything, boom, 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 boom. Because all kinds of industry came back from China and came in the United States, kept inflation low, kept interest rates low, wages, everything rose. Believe me, with his flat line had nothing to do with what happened the next 4
Well,
years.
my saying to her was you don't know the owner of like Google, or you don't know the owner of like a company that you love, and you don't base the fact of whether you love a company on the owner's personality. So a lot of people base the personality of say like a president. They go, oh, he's so rude, or who cares? If they do a good job, they do a good job. You don't really base like business on personality, and that's what people try to do with presidents. They try to go like, oh, they're charming, or they're not charming, or they're rude, or they're well, if they do a good job, they do a good job. If they don't do a good job, they don't do a good job. Who cares about personality, really, at some point? But, that's what I was trying to explain to her, because I didn't know anything about politics to back it up. And I was like, oh, gosh, if Papa was here right now, he'd be like, and then this and this and this. And she would have been like, all falling asleep. Because,
well, we don't really want to talk about politics here, because it's the best way to get shadow banned or thrown off of the and that's not the nature of what we do.
I was bringing it up because of the woke thing.
Tell everybody why we're doing this. Why are we doing this? Why do we come on every day, instead of out surfing or playing or golfing or just lounging around at whatever? Why do we come on here each day to do?
Side to you guys.
We haven't made a dime. We haven't made a dime off it. We give everything away just about. Why are we doing this? Are we doing this for our egos? Is this for our egos that we're doing?
No, I'd look better if I was. I'd get dressed up, but no,
I'd keep my hair cut, my face clean, and look like a decent man. But no.
The guides are saying the reason why we come on here every day is to keep the continuity of the Christ consciousness entering into the population of people, regardless of the woke nation, regardless of the politics and the religion, like all the stuff that's going against us knowing and understanding that we are spirits living a soul experience here as human beings, and we have control over that because we have a whole bunch of stuff that we can't see that affects us more than the stuff that we can see. Like all the stuff that we can't see, just like with politics or religion, I mean, the stuff that you can't see is going to affect you more than the stuff that you can see. If you can see something, you can prepare for it. If you can't see something, I mean, like if a spirit's in your energy and it's making your husband angry because it's in your energy field and it's nitpicking him on a level where he can't hear it and you can't hear it, but it's nitpicking him and he blows up on you and then you blow up on the kids and then everything's all hellish. I mean, that's like our own version of hell when our families can't get along and everyone's fighting and this and that. And that's invisible stuff can make your life like that. And a lot of people say like, no, nothing invisible can affect me. And yeah, it can. Like Jeff will be like, yeah, I don't believe that can affect me. It's like, yeah, it affects you. I mean, it's always proof on Wednesday night classes because the energy goes crazy in the house because I'm about to teach meditation. So everyone's energy comes in and our house turns into like World War III for about 5 minutes before we go, oh my God, it's Wednesday night. That's why everyone's going crazy. So emotions and feelings are controlled by our mind, Jesus just said, but what enters into us to provoke our emotions can be up to us, and just through simple prayer and through trusting God and through understanding Christ, we can live perfect lives. Even in the midst of complete political chaos, we can still live a perfect life. He said some people in like the in that war where the Jewish people were being persecuted, he said some of those people lived some of the most fruitful lives in captivity. Like, because they had their beliefs, they had their ideas, they had they had their families, and that what they learned in those lifetimes were more than any other lifetime that they lived, even though it was to us, we're like, wow, that was a horrible lifetime for them on the surface. But sometimes soul growth is more important than what's on the outside. So that's why we're doing it. That was Jesus.
Well, I'll explain it a little bit my way in that, folks, we started doing this and we got a lot of flack from Christians about the ability for Marisa to channel. And that's why Jesus, and I've read this several times, I asked Jesus in the session, what would you do? What would you do if you were me? And he said, just tell the truth. If people don't want to listen to you, they don't need to listen to you. But what you're trying to do is get to the other 85% of the Christians who call themselves Christians that don't even know they're Christians. They don't even know why they call themselves Christians.
Exactly.
That it would be up to us to at least help get Jesus's words out there, his philosophy out there. And he asked us to do that 10, 12 years ago, and here we are.
Yep.
Here we're doing it. And sometimes it's a real pain in the butt, to tell
We were
you the truth, to do it.
diverted for a little bit when I was writing books with Bill, because Bill's like kind of like not into Jesus and stuff like that. So I kind of feel like the Hay House thing took us off of this path, took me onto that path. But now I feel like we're back. And now what's funny is we're sharing me and Bill's books, but we're sharing it through channeling Jesus. So why don't we read some of that book, and then Jesus is here. I already said a prayer.
Okay.
And we'll just let him comment on anything about the soul path.
Well, if people want to catch up, they can go back a couple days. And we started in on the book, The Soul's Journey. That's backwards, folks. Sorry. Hopefully you can read from right to left.
No, it came out straight, actually. It came out straight, actually, this time. Amazing.
Oh, that's right, because we're on Stream Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Skeptic's Guide to the Soul Journey. If you go back a couple days, it'll bring us, you'll see where it brings us up to right where we are right now, which is chapter 5. So I'll read. What we did was I'll read. This is from Marisa's and Bill Gladstone's book entitled Skeptic's Guides to the Soul's Journey. And I will read. I'll just read. And this is all, not all channeled. I'll let you know when Marisa comes in the channel. A lot of it is Bill is having a conversation with you, and at time, and it's in the book, and then you'll respond by someone coming in, but it could never be Jesus or Christ because Bill didn't believe in that. So it always had to be like Saint Germain or somebody like that.
Jesus came in as Michael. Jesus came in as Michael. Jesus came in as the Tao. Jesus came in as Jeremy, Andrew. He never came in as Saint Germain. But Saint Germain, I think, was a version of Bill's higher self. But he always came in as Michael or Father Time.
Okay. Well, anyway, chapter 5. Let me just go ahead and get into this because I don't know. We've got about a half hour.
Yeah.
So, folks, you can drop off now, or you can stick in there for another half hour. Heck, the weekend's coming. What else are you going to do?
Exactly.
So anyway.
Hang with us.
So Marisa says, everyone has the exact same silver ball. We were talking about a silver ball being the equivalent, something like a Holy Spirit. Let me go back. So they want us to do is to not get too confusing. We'll just follow one of those little silver balls, because what's happening in a piece of you is going to one galaxy or one super universe. Another piece of you is going to another super universe. Another one's going to another, and then one of them is actually
talking about all the higher selves coming.
Yeah. And then one of them is actually what's inside Bill right now. So that little silver ball, we'll call that 12. So it's a holographic image of source that splits and then split and split and split. And now that's basically, I see a 12 on it. And now we can begin, because that's when the consciousness was created that is living inside of you. And everyone that's on this planet has a consciousness that started up there from source. It split, then it split, then it split, and then they became individuals. And then Marisa goes on, she says, everyone has the exact same silver ball. They have the exact same in the way that we have shown this to the channel. We have made this, you're obviously channeling this. I don't know who this is. It says we have, I have to go back to figure out. Who are you?
I was talking to the Tao.
Oh, you're talking to the Tao?
That's where I see it coming from the Tao.
Yeah. Okay. And it says, this spark of God does not judge. This spark of God does not necessarily have an opinion. It has all of the information that makes up the galaxies, that makes up the universes, that makes up the planet, that makes up the souls, that make up all the people. But there is no judgment, for we have given the visual of a silver spark or light, of light, which is God, which is exactly the same for every single person, is then given a camera. They showed us a GoPro video camera. This is your awareness. This is what you are perceiving. So you are perceiving, you are recording. A camera does not, again, this is all channeled from Marisa, from, I guess, the Tao. Let me get back to that again. I'm not on my computer. A camera does not judge. It does not have an opinion. It just records. So this God consciousness, this God spark is looking through this camera or recording with this camera and is then given, hold on. They're showing the, whoa, this is crazy. They're going too fast. Slow down, guys. Okay, stop with the visuals. Let me just channel. They're giving me too much visuals.
They're giving me visuals right now too. I like want to grab a piece of paper and start drawing with their showing me. They're showing me all these visuals.
Bill jumped in and said, okay, just to take a pause as you're gathering these visuals and organizing them, the spark of God, which we're going to call 12 for the purposes of this book, is within all human beings. Is it also within all matter on earth, the spark of God? Marisa, yes. The spark of God is in all matter, in all things, all beings, in all worlds. And Bill, is it also an inanimate object? Marisa, absolutely. So Bill says, so this is very important because I've discussed this in other writings, that the human conception of life versus death, animate versus inanimate, animate versus inanimate, is actually somewhat subjective and arbitrary. We believe as human beings that our level of consciousness is superior to the level of consciousness of other animals and plants, and way superior to the consciousness of inanimate objects, whether it be furniture or mass-produced glass. And the reality is that may be the case, but there is this spark of God in all matter. So to some extent, and this is Bill Gladstone's brainiac
Like,
mind.
how did I even understand what he was saying? That's amazing that I was even like understanding what he was saying and then responding.
Yeah, this is Bill, and he says, so to some extent, the soul's journey we're going to explore is the soul's journey of the spark of God that is in all matter. And I just wanted to clarify that and receive confirmation from the guys that this is a correct way of viewing what we're about to explain.
Oh, that makes
chapter
sense.
5.
So he's saying that the journey that we're exploring is not the soul, it's the spark of God that enters into a consciousness, gets given a little camera, and then is the I am that goes into the soul and has the soul experience. So we're following the spark, which is more, this is my higher self basically saying that calling us a spark is more accurate than calling us a soul, because other people can share that soul or their soulmates or things like that. But the spark is what we are always and forever, and what we will always be from the time we leave God's presence until the time we go back into God. We'll remerge with God. And,
is that something other than the peace of God that lives within us, the thought adjuster? Is the ball, the crystal ball, the little ball that is the God essence, the matter of God? Is that the is that the truth? The truth, or the
thought adjuster?
The thought adjusters that everybody has. Are they
the thought adjuster is created?
Are they the same thing?
Created. And the spark is not. The spark is not created. The spark is just kind of how water is. You can't destroy water; it changes form. Things like that. The spark can't be destroyed, but the thought adjuster can. So the spark and the thought adjuster are two different things. But the thought adjuster is more like the brain, whereas the spark is like the eye, or what perceives, and it'll attach on to the thought adjuster and perceive life as the thought adjuster. So the spark can like perceive life as the spirit, as the soul, as the higher self, as the thought adjuster. It goes with everything and nothing all at the same time. And it doesn't necessarily have personality. It's just a witness. It just looks, it just watches. So like they said, like
but it's saying it travels.
Yeah, it moves and goes throughout all eternity and time and space. And when we can begin to tune into that spark, that's when we become eternal. And that's what Jesus gave us with that, the spirit of truth. The spirit of truth gave us a direct shot connection to our spark of life.
Right. Okay,
So we
let's
didn't
keep
have access to
going.
that before.
No,
We didn't
go
have
ahead.
access to our sparks before. Our sparks were like shrouded in like ego and, emotions and feelings. And we had no idea we were a spark before that. But then Jesus came and showed us how to see that light. So yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. You respond absolutely, but it has to go back a ways. Yeah, is it also in inanimate objects? And then you said absolutely, and then you said absolutely again. Absolutely, and the reason why we use this camera and put the camera on the spark of God, you may visualize this silver ball of light that is a duplicate of God, venturing out across all time and space with this camera to perceive life. Because the camera, in essence, is uploading everything that is happening, that is perceiving back up to the original source, which is then downloading all the information into all the pieces of it. So as one spark of God grows, another spark of God grows as well. But it gets a little more complicated as we get into the lower dimensions. So just as an inanimate object will have a spark of God and a camera to perceive being this inanimate object or this human being, through what happens with many of these sparks of God is they decide that they want to, in essence, become souls. They want to become souls. So what happens with these is these sparks of God are in essence infused with after being passed through a veil to forget that they are God, the creator of all that is, and pass through a veil. They are in essence infused with the divine feminine energy, the divine masculine energy. Some are infused with angelic energy. Some are not infused with angelic energy. And their sparks of God are then delivered to what we call the soul plane. And once they are delivered to the soul plane, this is when they learn how to be souls, how to be humans, and eventually move on to becoming ascended masters, creator souls, godheads. All of these things come from evolving and growing as a human being, but first can experience life as other inanimate objects, if one would like. But most sparks of God that want to be a soul or want to be a human being will want to experience what it's like to be anything from the planet on which they choose to live, just as you, Bill, decided to be a rock for a while. You were not necessarily a rock in reality, but you were virtually a rock from the soul plane so that you could experience what it feels like to be a rock or a tree, or any of the things that you will be coexisting with when entering into the soul plane as a human being or as a Homo sapien. Bill says, now let's go back a little bit. He didn't even respond to that. He just says, no, let's go back a little bit. And you said, yeah, they want to rewind big time. So we gotta go to chapter 7. Bill starts as a rock. Bill starts as a rock.
He was a rock for
Okay,
2 million years.
I don't know. Let's see. Bill, for this spark of God that is in the ball that we're going to call 12, that we could trace all the way back to the source creator, prime creator, let's just limit ourselves right now to the spark of God, the ball, and the version that has been Bill. Whatever Bill is, and Bill's journey as a representative of the soul's journey on planet Earth. So the first incarnation in any form of the silver ball 12 on Earth, I've been told, was as a rock. Is that correct? Or was there something even earlier? And then you responded. The way that we would like to explain this in terms of incarnation, I was always, right from the beginning, always saying that we would like to explain it.
What we'd like to say.
Yeah, it was always Jesus. He said, yeah, that was us. That was me, but I had to use other names. So anyway, you responded by saying the way that we would like to explain this. Again, folks, this is Marisa channeling something. The way that we would like to explain this in terms of incarnation. Incarnation is a word that we would like to use just for the soul so that we can keep things a little bit more simple. Because there is experience, and then there is incarnation. There is the ability to plan and map out a life that involves other God source energies, experiencing life in their incarnation, interweaving and entangling your energies with theirs. And then there is experience of creation, where you as God's source, and then Bill cut in saying, so when you're experiencing creation as a rock, you're not really interacting with other energy. No, you're not. Because you're stationary, you're not talking. Exactly. You're not communicating. Obviously, if an animal comes along and takes a crap on you, you've had some communication. Marisa, there you go. And Bill, but nothing to really write home about. Being pooped on. Marisa, exactly. So what is the purpose of being the rock for 1,000,000 years? Chapter 8.
I'm going to add in that when he passed, he said that he went back into being a rock again, and it felt like 20,000 years, but it was only 40 days.
Wow.
Yeah, he said it was when he came and saw me like last month when I was doing the show outside. I was in a pink shirt. That's what the video it was. And he came and he said, I graduated. I'm a creator God now, or whatever, or creator self. And he had a little graduation thing with him, but he said that it felt like 20,000 years. He went back into his rock, but it was only 40 days in real life. Like
yeah,
here,
you should have Gail watch the show today. Yeah, and we probably should do a session with Bill. Just like in all these years, I still would like to do a session with Khalid, my Muslim friend. Khalid was my Muslim friend who died. Anyway, Marisa, God, source. Hold on a second. There's too many coming in. Hold on. Let me stop and let's see. There's so many beings in here right now. It's insane. I need to. Okay, here we go. Just you right here. Okay, fine. Saint Germain wants to talk.
No, I was always arguing with Saint Germain.
Okay, Saint Germain. Saint Germain, you can be my gatekeeper. He wants to be the gatekeeper. He's trying to push this Adonis guy out of the way. I want to be the gatekeeper. And Bill says, okay. Marisa, Saint Germain, the gatekeeper. All right, cool. He says, here's what Saint Germain says. This is much better. This is much better now. The energies were just too foreign, and I love to talk. I love to talk, and I love to communicate who you are, what you are, where you are at any given time in your life. So let us just start. Let us just start back up here. For the energies were just not coming in the correct way to my, what's the word that, up to snuff is what I would say. Bill says, yeah, to my liking. Yeah, to this liking from Marisa. There you go. So Marisa continues. So he says, God, the creator, and this is Saint Germain. So he says, God, the creator, let's imagine this. Let's imagine this, okay? Let's just imagine there is a big, huge ball of energy. Energy A. Energy A then duplicates itself. It doesn't matter how many times it duplicates itself. We can get into, yes, it duplicates itself 7 times, and then that energy, AI, then goes over to one universe. A2 goes to, or A1. A2 goes to another universe. A3.
A1. Okay,
yeah, it was meant to be A1. A1 then goes over to one universe. A2 goes to another universe. A3, but it doesn't matter because we need to simplify this. For they are trying to make it too complicated. We need to keep this simple. So there is source A. This is the source of all creation. This is an electricity. This is the Tao. This is the source of all creation. This is an electricity that ignites anything that is involved with it. So this electricity then becomes aware of itself. It duplicates itself and says, hey, why don't I go have an experience? So it has an experience. It duplicates itself. And then that piece says, hey, you know what? I want to go experience things as well. So then it duplicates itself. At that point, when it duplicates itself down to a singular level, in that it wants to experience things not as a mass consciousness, not as a universe, not as a galaxy, not as a planet, but it wants to actually be an individual being. Thinking of Jesus. This is when you become numbered, so to speak. This is when we call you 12, or we call this channel 46, or we call Gail 54. We will just number you. So this is when you're assigned your, let's say, your barcode. You're given a barcode. So every single spark of God has its own little barcode. Let's just say each person living on this planet has a spark of God inside of them that has a barcode. That has a number on it. What is very interesting indeed is that, Bill, there could be other 12s on the planet because they are here experiencing life as other souls. Even though you are 12, there could be others that have that same consciousness or awareness within them at the same time without sharing the same soul. So this is where it gets very complicated. And that's why we want to keep it very, very simple. Well, that wasn't real very simple, but I guess so. Chapter 9, you are created. So we follow you. You are created. This is a continuation. So we follow you. You're created. You're a source. You're a ball of burning light. You're a silver atomic piece of energy. And you're then given the awareness of yourself, crossed through a veil. And you, 12, forget that you are God. You're then infused with the divine feminine energy, infused with divine masculine energy, with the intelligence of Christ or God. And you are then delivered onto what we call the soul plane. You're now on the soul plane, entering into what we call soul school. And this is where before entering into a quote unquote, a human soul, before working with your guide to have any sort of incarnation, you may enter into almost an orientation like area where you can, as God creator, experience on an individual level what it feels like to be a tree or a rock or an animal or even a person.
So
You
this
can
is like that movie
experience.
Matrix. This is like the movie The Matrix, which you haven't seen and I haven't seen all the way through, where they go into like this like Matrix room that's all blank, and they actually practice living inside of like bodies and stuff like that. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing kind of like this like matrixy room where you can go in and be like, oh, okay, well, what's it feel like to be a tree? What's it feel like to be this? And I'm remembering what Bill said last week or the week before when he came in, and he said, your currency on this planet in heaven is not money. It's not even like what it's your experience. So the currency in heaven is experiences, because you get to share your experiences with other people and be like, oh, hey, you want to experience this experience with me that I had when I was down there? Like I went skydiving and did this, and that. And so you merge and they get to experience one of your experiences. So like, you know, their currency over there in heaven is experiences. So I find it interesting that they say as pure sparks, consciousness, we can experience things. And that's probably through a pool of all the experiences that everyone experiences down here at any given time. You know, I mean, like
Well,
how God can experience things without us experiencing them and saving them in some sort of database so we can then experience them over there as pure consciousness.
okay, let me recap what I think I understand in a few minutes before going any farther. Reading what I've just read, what I understand from what was just read is that God has these silver balls. They're all over the universe. They go in and out of human beings and in and out of rocks, in and out of trees or whatever. And then all of a sudden, one of these silver balls goes back up to God and decides and tells God, you know what? I don't want to be a rock. I don't want to be a tree. I want to be a human. I want to experience human. So then you go back down into what they say is the fourth dimension, which is the soul plane, which is where souls are created. And then they forget that they went. Even those souls forget that they went to God to ask to be a soul. Just as we make up our plans and we come to earth and we forget that we made up these plans. We forget that we're in heaven. So I understand it that the soul plane is, or the fourth dimension is where souls are created. So my question would then be, since 1/12 of all the souls are Lucifer's,
Half of them are, by
where
the way.
where
Correct.
are Lucifer's souls created? If God's souls are created in the soul plane, where are Lucifer's souls that come into these humans down here? Where are they created?
Lucifer's souls lack this spark. So Lucifer, the souls that Lucifer creates are souls that are actually created in the fourth dimension. The real souls are created up in the seventh dimension. So these are like over souls, and they project down into this reality. Lucifer creates them from the fourth dimension. They're recycled souls, and they don't have their own spark. So they don't have a spark.
They can eventually though end up the spark. They can eventually become
through Christ.
Creatures of God, can't they?
Through Christ, yes, they can
without being recycled. Is that what happens when somebody goes to hell with one of these dark souls? That soul just gets recycled, gets recycled to go into somebody else. So
so they don't get any spark. It's the same spark in the same old body, and that's why a lot of people are born with birthmarks and scars and things like that, because it's just an old body being born again, and it's like it's a duplicate version of a soul, because it's already lived before, and it's going back in again and again and again and again. And these sparks, these consciousnesses that they're numbering, like number 1 through 96 or something, they're numbering them. So Bill's number was 12. It sounds like mine was 54. Gail's was something else, or 46. So we have a number, so to speak, that comes directly from God. And if I die right now and I have my number 46 in me or whatever, they're saying it doesn't really matter, because you don't really become the God consciousness. But when I die, I leave and I take that with me. But if I stay here because I feel like I'm guilty and I need to stay in hell, then that 46 leaves me. So my light will leave me, because it doesn't stay in the darkness. That God consciousness, it won't stay in hell. It'll just leave. So then if I fall for some Godhead saying like, oh, now you need to go be recycled and reborn because you need to go live another lifetime, now I'm being born without that spark of God within me. So it's like that little piece of light that you can see inside people that makes them good, that makes them just have that thing inside them where you can just tell that they have God within them. Some babies are lacking that. And then what they do is they steal it from the parents. The babies will steal it from the parents. They're sparks. Oh, that's creepy. They're like zombie babies.
Babies steal the spark from the
recycled
parents?
souls that are the recycled souls that come into this planet that don't have that spark within them. They will take it from their parents. And I think really big problem kids and stuff like that, that come into this world, or even just very charismatic kids, or like they may not have that spark within them, but they're saying every human being at age 14 is given a spark. Wait, what? Every human being.
I don't follow that, because the spark became the soul. So what's this next spark? Is the next spark like the Spirit of Truth or the Holy Spirit or something like that?
The spark is the eye of God. So it's the witness. It's God's eye. So God is witnessing life through this spark, through a camera, basically like dropping a camera down into a person. That God's not going to go witness life through something that's like a recycled soul, because that's Lucifer's witnessing life through them. Lucifer is the God of those. So God is witnessing life through his creations. Lucifer's witnessing through his own creations. But when we turn 14 and we're given the ability to create human beings, like reproduce, we are given like a tree or a rock or anything that's created on this planet, we're given a spark of life. So everybody at age 14-ish is that's why teenagers are kind of impossible, because they can go from being one way and all of a sudden they feel like they know everything. Oh, now they have God inside of them. That's interesting. And that's why that Satan and all that tries so hard to get the teenagers. I was listening to a song the other day and I was like, this song is awful. It was an awful song. And I used to listen to it all the time when I was younger. I mean, all the songs are so horrible that are mainstream. It's just, they're horrible. And that's all focused on kids, those ages, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I mean, the music is just, the words are horrible. And that's Satan's whole thing, is he wants all the sparks. He's stealing all the sparks, all the eyes of all the kids, so that he can continue to exist.
That's insane. Well, listen, I don't want to continue on. I know we've only got about five minutes left. Don't want to bust the hour. I guess if I could ask one question and let you wrap it up for the day. First off, before we wrap up, folks, just tap the Learn More button that's up there in the top up there, and you can learn more about Marisa. Go into our Answers Heaven Speaks on Facebook, Answers Heaven Speaks, and we have videos going back years now. So you got on any particular subject, you could just pick one, listen to it, and you're going to find a nugget. Something's going to be in there that's going to help you in your life. So to wrap up today, my question to Jesus is, why should we care that there's a silver ball of God? Why should we care that God creates our souls in the fourth dimension? Why should we even care that there's a God or that we have souls? Why should we even care? I'll let you
Because it
finish
brings
it up.
hope. Jesus says the reason why we should care is because when we need hope, when we need to understand that we are something other than the horrible thoughts that stream through our heads, the terrible judgments, the terrible things that we say about ourselves and we do to ourselves, the horrible drama that we bring into our lives, sometimes knowing and understanding that there's something that is everything inside of us, witnessing life through us, guiding us, leading us, and directing us, sometimes that gives us solace. And it most definitely gives us hope. So when we lose, say, a loved one it dies, it feels good to know that there's a possibility that they are existing somewhere else and they're not just rotting in a hole. And this is the whole idea behind heaven and religion and God. People want to know that they're going to be okay when they leave here, because they only know themselves as this here right now. They don't know themselves as a silver ball of light. And you are not technically the silver ball of light. That is technically an organism that is you, that ignites you, that gives you the light that you need in order to feel happy. You can't feel happy when you don't have light inside of you. You cannot feel happy. We don't care how happy somebody says they are. If they don't have the light of God within them, they cannot be happy. They're miserable. They feed off of the ego. They feed off of the name dropping and stroking their own ego and having pictures of themselves by themselves up in their walls. And I'm so great and I'm so wonderful. And they talk and they say things to make other people think that they're so cool and they're so great, when inside they feel absolutely empty. But they'll never admit that, because only the light of God will allow you to admit something that humble. So you should care, because there's many people living in this planet that don't have the light of God within inside of them. They don't have this spark. They don't have this ball. They do not have it because they've pushed it away, or because it's left them. It's left them. There's many, many, many consciousnesses, these balls of light, that are Lucifers, that choose to come and live inside these beings that have pushed the light away. So there is a war for your souls, and your soul is your space. Your human body is your soul. And there's a battle between these balls of consciousness for your spaces to live inside of. So understand that something may want to come inside of you, and then your thoughts will become very negative. They'll become very evil. They'll become very like, oh my gosh, how am I even thinking this? I can't even believe I'm thinking this. It's because your light may have left you. And that's for any number of reasons. So what you may say today is, Christ, I ask through the Holy Spirit that the light that I am return to me. Christ, I ask through the Holy Spirit that the light that I am return back to, I'm going to start crying, return back to me. Oh my God. I can see them all going back to everyone.
That's cool. Great.
Christ, I ask the Holy Spirit that the light that I am return back to me. And you can say it a few times and just feel as you are coming back to you, your light is coming back to you. The original light that you are is entering into you, and you will understand why you should care then. That's why you should care. Oh gosh.
Perfect. Yeah. Whenever the Holy Spirit comes within us, it causes us to cry. That's why when you see somebody sing so beautifully, you can actually cry, because the Holy Spirit that lives within that person singing so beautifully just enraptures you and causes you to cry as well. So if you're ever happy crying, it's because the Holy Spirit is within you at that very moment. So anyway, thank you very much, Marisa. That's a good way to close for the day. Have yourself a really good weekend. And if nothing changes, we'll be back here again next week.
Yep, we're going to a wedding tomorrow, so I get to go find a dress to wear. I'm excited. Me and my clothes.
Yeah, go take care of that, and then we'll continue on with the Soul's Journey on Monday.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bill, for any information he brought in. I could feel him here. I just couldn't see him. So, anyways, okay. All right. Love you, Papa. Well, have a good weekend too.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Bye.
How do I get out of here? Okay. Bye. This is ended now.